What is up, guys? Welcome into another episode of From the Wing. I am Christian Clark, the Pelicans beat writer for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. We're coming at you a couple days after Thanksgiving. I had a great Thanksgiving on the North Shore, ate a lot of oysters, ate some gumbo, of course, ate two different types of turkeys. Really solid eating day. And I am ready to talk about the Pelicans and the state they are in, which is unfortunately a little bit depressing. And then we're going to zoom out to 30,000 feet and talk about some big picture stuff. I've got an announcement towards the end of the show.
Yeah, so I had a little split Thanksgiving. So I made some food, made some like nice creamy mashed potatoes, had some beef tenderloin yesterday. We didn't have two types of turkey. We had we had like baked turkey, both go arounds. Sides are always where it's at for me on Thanksgiving. I'm just like, I'm here for the sides. I'm making the sides. I got all my veg from a farmer's market. So things are turning. I'm wearing flannel now. I don't know. Like maybe I'm getting into maybe I'm going to Portland soon. I don't know. I feel like I could make some breads and jams.
You got your sourdough starter going right now?
Yeah, that I'm just going to keep in the family and pass down to my kid. It's tough. All right. We are still brought to you by Crescent Canna with uplifting and relaxing effects. Crescent 9 is my favorite drink to enjoy while watching the Pelicans. Shocker, my favorite flavor up on us again. Sour watermelon. It's where it's at. 10 milligram. Perfect hitter.
Some are saying the GOAT.
Yeah, it's the GOAT. It is. It's undebatably the GOAT. You can get these at any of your local grocers, your Rouse's, your Canseco's, your Zapardo's, all of those local places. And right now, they are stocked to the gills because starting on January 1st, we're going to have some legal changes in the state of Louisiana. All of your drinks over the 5 milligram level are going to be off the shelves. So your 10s, your 30s, your 50s, get them while they're hot. They are stocked up. I got to say, I did look at Rouse's around the corner. Sour watermelon's already gone. So maybe that's my fault. I don't know. But go get those while they last. And then we'll have an array of flavors coming at the 5 milligram level, as things shift. And, you have to be 21 or older to purchase and consume THC products. Please consult your doctor before using any cannabis products if you have a medical condition or are taking with medication.
We had a lot of the fam on the North Shore going on the Crescent Nines on Thanksgiving Day.
Love to hear it.
Kind of like a wind down thing. And I got to say, great way to end a long day of eating. Just great way to relax at the end of a day of feasting.
Maybe this is the jump start for the second plate or the jump start for the third plate. When you're starting to feel like you're going down, you maybe get that hunger level back up, get relaxed, space out for a little bit, and then maybe get a little munch on later on. Maybe I messed that up. I probably should have done this yesterday. What am I doing?
Adam, the Pelican season is one quarter of the way over.
Is it?
It has not gone well, unfortunately. The Pelicans are 4-16. They lost to the Grizzlies on Black Friday in an NBA Cup game. They will not be going to the NBA Cup knockout round.
Shucks.
This year, like they did last year, they are 4-16. They're in last place in the Western Conference. They have the third fewest wins in the NBA. Zion and Brandon Ingram are out right now. Ingram missed his third straight game with calf soreness. Zion's out indefinitely with a hamstring thing. Herb Jones remains out. I think he's been playing 3-on-3. It sounds like he's getting closer. DeJounte Murray and CJ McCollum are back, and I thought they both played pretty decent games in Memphis. I mean, DeJounte had some turnover stuff early on. CJ was really good. But it's great to see those guys back in the lineup. I genuinely enjoy watching those guys, covering those guys. I think they're about the right things, so that's really positive. It's just been a nightmarish first quarter of the season. I mean, look, they're 27th in offensive rating, 27th in defensive rating, 29th in net rating. They're just one of the worst teams in the league right now, and a lot of it is because their most important players have not been able to stay on the court. Bad luck. Other stuff, if you want to make that argument, I'm just not really going to try to do that today. What are your thoughts about where the Pelicans are at? Where do they go from here?
Yeah, look, this is like the poetic monstrosity of a season. The closest thing to it is like Memphis's season last year in terms of the just sheer injury destruction. We came into the season saying that this schedule already lended to like one storyline for you to be competitive in the West. There was one way that you get to a win total you feel good about. And very quickly, that whole script went out the window, like lit a flame, and off to the races we go. We're behind the 8 ball right out the gate, and just one game after the other, another person and another person and another person and another person goes down with tears and strains. And it's just a miserable season. It's a miserable way to start. I'm not gonna blow smoke and tell people that, yeah, now they're gonna lead the charge. Like, look, the math is overwhelmingly against us.
I tried to be really positive last week and be like, look, it's not over yet. I'm maintaining the hope, and I can't even sit here and do that this week.
I'm just still staring at, like, unless they manifest a 2008 Rockets type, like 20 game run, there's no reviving this. And that it's not to say that's not possible. It's just incredibly improbable. And especially when you still have guys out, like it seems like we're going to get Herb back. We're going to get guys are going to come back. You wonder why some of the guys are out right now. There's just a lot looming, and the schedule doesn't get any easier. January is an okay month, but December's tough, and they need like psycho winning records in those 2 months to change the framework of the season. So right now, like, you're seeing people start the conversations about what is the reality of this roster, what does it mean for the season, when should they bail, should they move guys, all those things. Like that conversation starting to burble to the top. And it has to, realistically, like it's been such a bad start that you're just so far behind the 8 ball that it's not going to matter if you string together 20 wins. All that's going to do is move you from last to like 5th to last. So, and at the same time, you have a great draft class coming. So like, we're going to start weighing all that stuff. Like I joked around on the old Blueski that like maybe I need to start watching college basketball. Like maybe it's time, because these games are not fun to watch either. It is tough when your roster just like doesn't make basketball sense because dudes aren't playing.
If the Pelicans were in the Eastern Conference, this would be a different conversation. The 10th place team in the East right now is the Detroit Pistons. Shout out Trajan Langdon, who are 9-12. The 10th place team in the Western Conference right now are the San Antonio Spurs, who are 10-9. Right now, Minnesota, Sacramento, those are teams outside the play-in tournament picture. Like that would be disastrous for Minnesota or Sacramento if it was not able to make the play-in this year. My point is that there are more than 10 teams who are going to be driving really hard to make the play-in tournament in the West. I would bet that you need to have at least a winning record to make the play-in tournament in the Western Conference this year. Maybe it doesn't take 46 wins to get up to 10th place like it did last year in the West, which was just an unusually brutal year, even for the West. But, let's just say it takes 42, 43 wins. Well, even getting there, it's getting to the point where even that's going to be difficult for the Pelicans. So I don't think it's crazy to say like, okay, I mean, maybe you don't go full on tank, but I mean, if you're sitting there refreshing tankathon, I can't blame you. I just can't blame you at this point. I think we probably need to discuss some changes that have happened with the two most talented players on the Pelicans roster. The Athletic first reported both of these moves. Zion Williamson is parting ways with CAA, and Brandon Ingram is parting ways with Excel Sports. I have heard where both those guys are signing, but the agents are not confirming that stuff right now. So I'm just going to not say it for now. I feel like I have a lot of insight on the Zion thing. That has been an annual rumor basically since he came into the NBA. I mean, there have been kind of the whispers about Zion's camp's discontentment with CAA, almost immediately since he came into the NBA in a way that's been very, very strange. I mean, I've even chased down rumors before where like I'm calling people at CAA. I'm like, hey, I'm hearing he's leaving. and they're calling me back and like, well, there's a miscommunication on Zion camp's end, and it's actually not happening. Our bad. It actually happened this time. They're confirming it. He's finally leaving CAA. Um, I'm interested to see how the next few months play out for him. And then Brandon Ingram, Excel. That one was more of a surprise, but maybe it shouldn't have been a surprise, I guess, just because he's in the final year of his deal. Pelicans spent all summer trying to trade him. They're not going to give him the max extension. But yes, there's big business changes with both Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram right now.
Yeah, with Zion, it feels like, if that's the context of, what the rumor has been for years, then it's kind of like, hey, this is about as stable a time period as he's going to have. So you may as well do the swap now because there's nothing hyper imminent. And then on BI's side of things, it's, hey, he was convinced he was getting a max and that not taking the extension, before his contract got to its final year was a good decision. And that if it didn't come from the team, they'd find something on the market. And all of those things turned out to be incorrect. So yeah, the people who told him that was a good plan probably would get fired. So that one is probably one that like we hear it, and I don't think anybody even like bats an eye at it. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay, he doesn't have a deal. He's got to figure out which way he's going. And just often when guys are about to have like a potential shift in where they are or how they want to be perceived or have struggled with their last deal, like this is just the time to do that and to set the next course for your career. So yeah, not as shocking for BI to me. Zion was just kind of like, all right, like what are we thinking here? Like what's going to change now? Because hard to know. But if he's always wanted to get away from it, then I guess, hey, now's as good a time as ever.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my question is, what will make the Zion side happy? I mean, what does happiness look like for them, and can happiness be achieved unless Zion, changes his approach in a dramatic way?
No. That's the struggle. That is the entire struggle right there. Is like the like that judgment call of happiness is like, is happiness showing up for every practice and doing a 2 and 3 hour pregame routine where you really take care of your body and showing up to all your rehabs and getting stretched out on the table and all those things? Because if it's doing all those things, I think you can probably find your happiness. But the shocker there is that happiness will be generated from within. It's
Yeah, I
not
mean,
going to
like
be because somebody found you a different situation. You're kind of in control of your own deal here.
the perception of Zion and his inner circle in the NBA is they're just malcontents. I mean, that's the perception. We'll see if it changes with agency, but they're just generally not happy a lot of the time, it seems like. And it's like, yeah, I mean, look, the Pelicans could have done a lot of things better. I think now when you look at this roster, it's actually a pretty good roster. And if they actually had a true number one, a tentpole player, then everything would make a lot of sense to me. I think that's, one of the primary problems here. They just don't have a true number one. They don't have that unifying guy where everyone, fits in around and there's a proper hierarchy of roles. They just have a lot of good players and they don't have a great player. And we wanted Zion and BI to be that guy. And it just, unfortunately, here, it doesn't look like they are. It's not to say they're bad players. They're both very good. But they're just not like the faces of the franchise that we hope they would be.
Yeah, and if there's anything, like, you came into the season knowing that the version of this team that's centered around those two was already long for this world, and now you're just getting it ended super prematurely to the point where you're not going to find out. But I think we saw enough with our eyes to know that the merger of those two isn't in it, and hopefully wherever Zion lands agency wise, he listens to them and takes outside advice to do things in a different way than he has done them so far. But yeah, the team is full of good players, and it also just has two dudes centrally that just don't do enough. One of them doesn't do enough on the floor to really like be the 1A, and the one that can do enough to be the 1A on the floor doesn't do enough off it.
You
And
know,
there's just nothing's going to change those two guys.
yeah. I mean, look, the Pelicans played 15 games in November. I couldn't help but think last night about the way the month started with that Indiana win at home, which was one of the best games we've seen Zion and Ingram play as a duo. Like that was a moment where it's like, oh, this is a vision of what it could be when both these guys are playing with great energy and they're engaged and what they look like on a really good night and when they're trying to work together. And then, a lot of the rest of the month was a reminder of like, yeah, this is what it is. I mean, Ingram has been very available this season until the last 3 games when he's been out with a calf thing. Willie Green has maintained this whole time. He's day to day. He's day to day. He's day to day. The day to day stuff has lingered with Ingram in the past. We'll see. I don't know what's going to happen yet. But this month started with the vision of what it could be, and then it ended with what it has been.
And to Ingram's credit, he has looked more stylistically like the player you would want him to be this season too. He's just done it without a complement of guys alongside him while doing so. So, like, credit to him, albeit in a contract year, he is playing the way that they want him to when he is playing. But now he is not, and we don't know when he's going to play again. And we don't know when Zion's coming back. We're slowly getting the other pieces back. It's a tough scene out here. It's another tough scene, and we're gonna potentially joke our way through it and watch some college basketball and watch some Igor Demon and Ace Bailey. It's Dylan Harper, and try and feel better about our lives with the assistance of our friends at Crescent Canna.
All right, Adam. Let's switch gears here a little bit. The news is already out there. Today
What news?
is my last day at Times Picayune, The
What are you
Advocate,
talking about?
NOLA.com. Yep. It has been a wonderful 5 years, but I'm moving on and making a step. And I said this on Twitter. It was not boring. It was definitely not boring.
Brother, your time here and my life, that's how I describe my personal life and my development in life so far. It's I wouldn't call it always fun, but it is always interesting. And that's the Pelicans in a nutshell. I hate that you didn't get like more than just like you have like a couple of little tastes of us being competent and having like positive inclination for what the future might hold. But most of what you've gotten to cover has been a roller coaster with a lot more downs than ups. And look, I'm thrilled for you to have your next opportunity, and that you're not, he's not going away from writing. Everybody, he's not done in the NBA just yet. But yeah, this sucks. I'm not looking forward to losing you. This has been a blast for the last 3 years to do this with you and talk to you about basketball as often as we do. And you've helped educate me on stuff like a lot of my friends who are writers do, just like seeing the game beyond just what's on the floor and like what's going on behind it and paying attention to that stuff and hearing like what's going on inside of quotes. You've been the best cover. You're going to hate this part because this is the part where I gas you up, and I know you don't gravitate towards this stuff. Part of the reason I was excited to do this podcast with you is, as far as I'm concerned, you've been the best coverage of this team that we've ever had. And I saw eye to eye with what you wrote from the second you started covering the team. I told you so in DMs and stuff before I knew who you were. And that led to, our fateful lunch at Blue Oak, and then 3 years of this. I am going to miss this. I am going to miss talking to you about this stuff. And honestly, I'm going to miss having the one guy that like attempts, despite whatever the outcome is, that attempts to hold like the administration and the team and the coaches like all accountable for what they say and what they do. I think we're going to be missing that. I think coverage here will suffer for a time while you're gone. You've been great here.
I think one of the things that surprised me a little bit was Pelicans ownership was almost taken aback by being scrutinized a little bit. And that was surprising to me because it was
Not
like
us.
objectively, and like if you just take the emotion out, this is like one of the, and I'm not trying to say this to be a hater, this is one of the least successful pro sports franchises in North America. And it's like when you would go hard, sometimes they'd be like, "What is he doing?" And it was like, "What do you mean? What am I doing?"
Look, the reporting ecosystem here around all of our sports, like Saints included, has, it's tends to be very celebratory and very frilly and, character puff pieces and stuff. Like that's what we're kind of adjusted to. And then you'd get like, you'd have a writer here and there that would share like their opinion on how things were going with the team. But you were willing to go to places and to report on things that like they didn't want attention on. That's not something we're used to, but that is quintessential journalism and like capital J journalism, as they say. And we just do not have a lot of that in this market, and we're going to be losing it again. Whoever they attempt to hire behind you has some gargantuan shoes to fill. But yeah, we're not used to that. New Orleans is not used to that. We kind of just like go hide when things are bad, or like now we talk about it on Twitter. And then when things are great, we all just like celebrate and drink in the streets, and there's like no in between. And you created an in between for the Pelicans.
Look, this was maybe the newsiest NBA team of the last 5 years. This was just a great beat to be on if you wanted to develop reporting chops and you wanted to report interesting stories out. I made a brief list here of stories, big stories that I covered on the Pelicans beat. I started November 8th, 2019. That was 8 games into the 2019-20 season, which was Zion's rookie year, Brandon Ingram's first year in New Orleans, David Griffin's first year. Zion was supposed to be out 6 to 8 weeks. He missed 13 weeks. In his debut against the Spurs, he hit 4 threes in the fourth quarter, but was taken out right when crunch time was starting. COVID, the bubble debacle, the Alvin Gentry firing, the Stan Van Gundy hiring, the Drew Holiday trade, Eric Bledsoe, sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Point Zion, which was an absolute blast to cover. That might have been, one of the most fun times I've had covering this team. The Stan Van Gundy firing, the Willie Green hiring, the 2021 draft, Trey at 17, Herb at 35, Jose Alvarado is an undrafted free agent. The start of Zion's third season, where he and Griff say he'll be back for the first game. He misses the entire season. The bubble run, which that was the most fun part of all this. That was definitely the most fun in the 5 years I've had here, where they win those 2 elimination games against the Spurs and the Clippers, and then they take 2 games off the top-seeded Phoenix Suns. The 7-game winning streak early in Zion's fourth year, Willie Green's second year as head coach, it kind of looked like Zion was putting it all together. Then he has the right hamstring strain in their first game of the new year, and then there's the hamstring re-injury. Ingram missing 29 games in a row with an injury the team described as a left toe contusion was lumped in there. Year 3 under Willie Green, a 49-win season, just a good professional effort. I think me and you were both 49-win respecters. I think that was unfortunate, the way it ended with Zion with his left hammy injury in the play-in tournament against the Lakers. It just stunk because I thought Zion, after the in-season tournament debacle, did a lot of the right things, and I wanted to see him get rewarded for it. Unfortunately, he didn't. And then this season, which has been, well, this season.
So a lot of that list sounded like negative things followed by dynamic changes because of the negative things, and now we're having a bit of a negative season, and maybe now it's time for another swath of firing and hirings and all those things again. That was a pretty morbid list, man. It starts with like the ton of promise of like this behemoth is coming down from the mountaintops to save the Pelicans organization, but no, he's not. Drew's the MVP. Drew's going to be the MVP. And then here we are with both of your best
that
players
was a
not
contender
playing.
for a wildest Griff quote. I'm giving Drew Holiday permission to dominate.
Oh man, he just needs permission to dominate. What a good line. Yeah, it's been some dark times. We had that little blip. I will always remember that like $480 I won on a parlay during the Suns game. That was great. Just standing up there next to the bar, waiting for threes to go down so I could cash. It was a good time. that was the most fun sequence. You know, a lot of us, the only thing we'd rival it with is 2018 with the Blazer series, because it was just like, it was fun to shock everybody and dominate a team, although that team was probably already like had questions asked of them and people didn't exactly believe in them in the way that you normally would for a high ranked team. Tumultuous, I think, is probably the best word to cover to embolden over everything you've covered here. It's been up, it's been down, it's been a lot of downs. A couple good highs, maybe a couple more good highs coming my way. But that's a tough list. I really wanted like one or two more happy things in there, and they're just not there. It's
One of
just
the things I was
dark.
thinking about before the start of this season is, if you are a Pelicans fan, like, you're a sicko, and I tip my hat, and like, you are a real one. If you are into this stuff after all the stuff that has happened, I've thought a lot about, like, why has it been hard for the casuals to get on board? And I think, one of the biggest reasons is they just don't string the good seasons together. Like, they'll have good seasons every now and then, but it's always followed by, a big drop, right? I mean, like Chris Paul, 07, 08, second in MVP voting. He probably should have won MVP that year. And they're just not able to sustain that run for long. And then, the best player in franchise history is getting out of here after 6 years. The Anthony Davis thing, they had, I think, two pretty good seasons, one of which was 2017-18, where you make the second round of the playoffs. And then the next year it's Anthony Davis's trade request. Last season, I thought, was a good season for the Pelicans. I know the way it ended was disappointing, but 49 wins, I don't think that's anything to sneeze at. I thought that was like, I mean, I respected, what they were able to do last year. And then this year it's like, man, the bottom just falls out again. And I think that's probably the biggest reason when I look at it, why they've had trouble, getting a lot of those just casuals on board. It's just, it's never, it's never two good seasons in a row. It's never three good seasons in a row. And that's how you increase the size of the fan base.
Yeah, and this city likes winning. We've never had trouble getting support and getting rampant support for this team when they're winning. It's not hard to sell out the arena when they're winning. And if you could expect winning, it would make the spectacle a little different if there wasn't a question every night of like, will you see three of the players even play that night? Then yeah, it'd be easier to keep people's attention. You know, I'm friends with both of these groups of people you're talking about. I have a group chat every day that unfortunately every single day we are alive talks about the Pelicans at some point. And it's generated completely out of Pelicans fandom. We are the sickos. We are all over your Twitter feeds and your Blueskis. But yeah, then there's my friends from like high school and college and stuff that have never really loved basketball, that like go when we're good or get season tickets if they think we're going to be awesome, but if they think we're not going to be good, like, I don't really love basketball that much. So yeah, no, I'm going to go do other things. Those guys want to hear that we won, want to hear that we have a top 25 player, want to hear that a dude dropped 30, 12, and 7. And that stuff is just not happening consistently enough to maintain that attention. And that those are the people that you need to win over here. They are diehard Saints fans who, are a little salty about that place right now. So, yep, we're right in that nasty middle where we get little doses of hope, we get a little drop of hope, get excited about it, and then like right after the hope comes in, we get slammed back off a cliff.
Sorry, my mic was muted. Let me ask you this. If you are named Pelicans GM tomorrow, how are you proceeding from there? What do you look at on this roster and say, yes, this is what I want to continue to build around? What do you look at and say, no, we need to make a change here? How do you move forward, GM Adam McCreary?
Oh, all right. We're gonna put me in the spot. Okay. I like there are four people that that matter to me long term, that are on a similar length of contract and have value that exceeds or matches their long term deals. That's DeJounte Murray, Herb Jones, Trey, and Misi. Everybody else, every role player involved in the team, I'm not making decisions based on the rest of them. Um, the focal points of your decision making right now are clearly Brandon Ingram and Zion. I think we knew before the season we were ready to move on from that marriage. Bi's probably looking to get out of here at this point, given how things have gone over the course. Like, let's be honest. So for me, I'm letting my guys get healthy and come back and play basketball. These are still professional basketball players that have, scoring and assist averages and defensive reputations and their careers to be concerned with. I'm going to start bringing them back, but I'm looking at the month of December, and, I'll let them have as much of a run. Like, I'm not going to make changes and mess with the roster or anything like that during December, but I'm going to let them have December to kind of show me what they've got. And if it doesn't look better than what it has looked like with, we've only had a couple of them back at a time. If we get most of the guys, like all the guys but Zion, back by like the second week of December, and they can't get out of that month with a significant winning record, it's probably time to start having conversations specifically about Brandon and CJ. Brandon is just not long for the Pelicans. Like, if you don't know that by now from listening to us, that's just fact. So it's a matter of when and what are you willing to accept for him to go somewhere. I think you've seen in his absence and with the addition of Elfrid Payton, I think you've seen an offense that's more cohesive for your bigs, that is more like traditional in the half court, that plays at a little bit higher pace. It's a more along the lines of like the style they want to play with. So play that way, be fun, be, run and gun, develop Misi. I've loved seeing this. The unfortunate thing, the one bright spot that comes out of all of this awful injury, is Misi gets tons of reps and he is growing at a rate that no one would ever expect. I think he'd go top. If you redrafted that draft right now, he goes top 10. So yeah, I'm just looking at December. I'm giving them December before big conversations are had. I think it completely, unfortunately, changes the time frame of like how you look at what's on CJ's deal and who he could be useful to. CJ has been like the ultimate pro here, has done exactly what you've asked, has played exactly the role you've asked him to play. And this is not panning out for him to be able to make any waves here. So if there's like a title for him to go hunt, or somebody that's interested, and you can find even like a neutral value move that moves his contract, go for it and let him have the rest of the career he deserves, because he shouldn't just be, flailing out over here while we reshuffle the decks and figure things out again.
I agree with your assessment. I think there are 4 players I'm considering keepers. DeJounte Murray, keeper. He's under contract for 3 more years after this? It's a reasonable number. You can give the ball to him and he'll be an offensive organizer for you. I think he's got a good compete level. I like what he brings to this team just in terms of, I care about the result of every game. I think that's probably been, a criticism I have of like some of their other most talented players at times. And just professionalism, like whatever you want to say about the guy, like he's just got basic professionalism. And then Herb Jones, yes. Trey Murphy, yes. And Yves Misi, yes. Like those are my 4 guys. I think anybody else can be had for the right deal. Those are the 4 guys I'm moving forward with. And it is painful, if you want to have those tear it down discussions, that you got the number 1 pick in 2019, you got to trade Anthony Davis, and you really don't have that much to show for it, unfortunately. But I think we're nearing the point where it's just time to admit this just isn't working out, and you got to figure out what the best thing is to move forward is now.
And this is the more common path. This is what happens. You take your shots, you make the trade for the guy that's available, and you hope for the best. Like, not getting Kyle Kuzma didn't change that deal, but the Lakers were the deal that was available. You get Brandon Ingram. He reached a level a little bit higher than people thought he was capable of coming over from LA. Like, he did touch a certain height that was great for us, and he became an all-star. And that was a good result. You don't win trades when you trade away star players. And at the very least, I think they got like a neutral value deal. You could argue for Anthony Davis leaving, especially the way that he left with all the consternation and drama and holdout and league forcing us to play and all that stuff. Like, you still got a deal done for a lot of stuff, and we can talk about all of the heights of the major assets of that deal, but look around and you have Herb Jones, you have Trey, you have Misi. You were able to trade Dyson and Larry and get DeJounte Murray. Like, you still have things here, so that check is still cashing to some degree. And now you have a much tougher situation because we just went into a market that didn't value Brandon Ingram. We've talked incessantly about how difficult it is to value Zion, because valuing him starts with trusting him, and what team wants to do that and wants to make him a focal point at the high dollar, even if you do have ways to get out of it. These are the toughest questions I think we faced at this point. Like, honestly, this is quite the pickle for the Pelicans franchise relative to what the hands they've been dealt in the past. But at the same time, they do have like reliable league-wide desired assets that will still be here when those two people are not. So that's better than it's been. I've definitely seen worse here. My friends have seen worse here. So it's not completely bare bones.
Let's try to end on a positive note. Do you have a single favorite moment of this like new era since 2019? Is there one moment where you're like, this was most satisfying to me as a fan?
I mean, it was probably in the run up to the Phoenix series, we needed a win against the Lakers, and it was here. And it was the first time that like the Lakers just always have our number. And we have a thing with the fans where like people give up their tickets because we got fair weathers and Lakers are coming into town and people are willing to pay astronomical prices. So those tickets, they sell out and there's tons of Lakers jerseys. And then LeBron usually comes in and completely kicks our ass. And, much like Kevin O'Shea and Cherry Hill in the movie Little Giants, there's that one time. And that was that one time where from the start of that game, it felt like we had it. And it felt like BI was playing at a level where you were like, okay, like you trust this guy to make a shot over anyone right now. Like he is completely in fuego. They're playing high level defense. They're gonna win this game, and they needed to. That game was awesome. Like the energy in there was good. It was just not a typical result. They needed it was late in the season, and then we get those two Phoenix games. So that whole run, but specifically that Lakers game.
Yeah, I think probably two moments for me. The Phoenix game where Zion did the 360 dunk of death was just ridiculously fun. It was fun to watch the Suns players get in their feelings. It's the classic, hey, look, if you don't like it,
Stop
you
it.
should play better and stop it thing. That was a ton of fun to see that. And then the Clippers game was so much fun just because of the way that season started with the Zion drama, and Willie Green hanging in and being positive, and them overcoming that 3-16 start. Honestly, part of it was that 36 wins got you into the play-in tournament that year, but it was still really fun. And I mean, look, Brandon Ingram had an incredible game. Larry Nance Jr. I remember like what he was doing in the rebounding department in that fourth quarter against the Clippers. Trey Murphy, we saw Tony Snell break a three off the side of the backboard, and Willie Green was like, okay, I'm going to go with Trey Murphy now. And then Trey Murphy has a really good fourth quarter. So that was a really fun night. I actually got to be in LA for that, and just like experiencing kind of the euphoria from the Pell side. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, those are unfortunately, again, it feels like so long ago now. Like the joyful moments are so rare that we can all recall them because there just aren't that many that hit those heights. And we need those to be more casual. We need to not be able to quickly think of when our favorite moment was. I did also kind of love when they beat the Suns last year. I was sitting in an eighth grade confirmation or ninth grade confirmation class in a church while that was happening. And I was not supposed to be looking at my phone, but I was. And That's when Zion all of a sudden started cooking the Suns with those push shots and the little pull-up elbow jumper. And I thought he figured it all out. And then I advocated for him all summer. Like, yeah, he's going to be the guy now. And he came in, he's weighing less weight. Like, yeah, he's going to be the guy now. And then he's sick for game one. He's still not the guy now. So are you relieved at all? Is there any part of you that's relieved to just try something different? Or is this,
honestly,
it mostly
yes.
sadness?
Yeah, I am a little bit relieved, honestly, because I think there's going to be a lot of messiness before this gets better here. And
I agree.
It's going to be,
That's why we need you here to write about it and tell us what's going on behind the scenes. But can we tell people, where are you headed? Where are we headed? What are we doing next? If not the Pelicans, then who?
I will still be writing and reporting about the NBA. I will be doing it for The Athletic. I'm going to be moving to Dallas. Not that far away, just an hour Southwest flight. Still covering the league. And I'm excited to do that for at least a few more years. Really good opportunity. Look, I think this experience in New Orleans was the best education a writer reporter could get about covering the NBA because, oh man, there was firings, there was drama. I mean, you had no choice but to become a good reporter because there's just so much stuff that happened.
You say that, but you were the best one. And we're all looking around like, why are there not more Christians? And we're nervous right now as you depart. We're definitely nervous what that ecosystem is going to look like because, like you said, there is so much to talk about. And some of these stories are still ongoing. Like our perception of the administration and of management will continue to ripple into these upcoming trades and moves and tactical shifts. And hopefully somebody covers it half as well as you did. I'm excited that you're not getting away from basketball. I'm absolutely going to guilt you into coming back on here. For people listening, the show is going to remain. Christian's going to be writing, but we're gonna keep putting out from the wing. I'm going to be kind of shifting into the pilot seat a little bit. And for the next month or so, I'm going to be joined with some assistants to help me adjust to life after Christian by one of the hosts of the Dunker Spot, Mr. Steve Jones Jr. is going to come help me break down where the Pelicans are, where they're going before what looks like it's going to be a pretty tumultuous time. Like Christian said, there is tons of stuff to talk about. So we will keep talking about it and I'll keep texting him and I'll absolutely hound him to come back on and talk about Najee and the Mavericks. And I'm going to hate it. That's going to feel so disgusting when I do it, but I like that text is already in drafts.
I guess the last thought I have is I've been able to just form so many great relationships in New Orleans over the past 5 years. You are absolutely one of them. And I want this team to do well for folks like you, for folks like the Pelicans social media people who are just out there grinding and I think do such a good job, and people on the Pelicans coaching staff and the performance staff. Like there's so many good people who I think do good work here. And I just want to see the team be successful for them. I want to see their work pay off.
Don't we all? But, needless to say, wherever the Pelicans are going to go, we're going to talk about it. I'm going to make you talk about it again in the future. I think the focal point at this point, we're looking forward to where you're going and to hearing from you again. The league is better off for having you cover these teams, and I hope they're ready for some challenging questions in Dallas, because I know you are of the people I know. I think the thing about you that makes you so good at this is that you really don't care about the personal outcome of asking a question. You are not shy. You look at it as journalism and you ask the question that needs to be asked regardless of how it's going to get perceived. And I'm sad to lose that, but this has been a blast. You helped me make something real, as a fan. I'm nobody. I work in a hospital. I'm a guy that just obsesses over this team and watches all their games. And you kind of gave me a venue to start talking about this and for us to build a following with and get a sponsor with and all those things. It's been an awesome run. You've done an incredible job here, and we're everybody. I know I speak for everybody when we say like best of luck to everything you're gonna keep doing, and don't stay too far away.
Won't be far away at all. I'm still going to be coming here a lot, eating at my favorite spots. Adam, it has been a pleasure doing this with you. It's been a lot of fun, and I know we're going to be talking again soon.